Okay, the next one is how do sedimentary rocks form? Okay, this slide basically explains how sedimentary rocks are made through a natural recycling process. Okay, sedimentary rocks form from tiny pieces of other rocks, minerals, and organic materials. Over time, these particles are compacted and cemented together by pressure and natural processes. Okay, in simple, these rocks start as small bits of other rocks, minerals, or even remains of plants and animals. Okay? And what is the meaning of pressure in this? Over million of years, these pieces pile up in layers. Okay? So the weight from the top layers presses down on the bottom layer, which is compaction, and natural minerals act like glue, which is cementation to turn the loose bits into solid rocks. Okay? For example, sandstone. Okay, this sedimentary rock is formed from sand particles that have been compressed over millions of years. The sand particles stick together, forming solid rock. Okay, so look at this image, image 1, a close up of sandstone showing the visible grains of sand tightly packed together. So this is classical example. It is literally made of sand grains that have been squeezed together for millions of years until they become hard stone. And look at this diagram, a sequence of sediment layers in a cliff where different layers of sand, pebbles, and still are visible, illustrating how different materials settle and compact over time to form rocks. Okay, you can see that different strips of layers, each layer represents a different time in history when sand, pebbles, or silt settled on top of each other. Okay. Okay, the next one is classify rocks as igneous, sedimentary, or metamorphic. Okay, this slide basically explains that all rocks on Earth fall into three main categories based on how they were born. Okay, the first one is igneous rocks. Okay, formation. Igneous rocks are formed from the cooling and solidifying of lava on the Earth's surface or magma, which is beneath the surface, like from melted rocks like lava or magma that cools down and turns solid. Okay? Example, a common igneous rocks that forms from lava that cools quickly on the surface resulting in small crystals. You know, they often look sparkly or have visible crystals. Okay? Key features, these rocks often have a crystalline texture because the minerals cool and solidify into visible crystals. Okay, so the next one is sedimentary rocks, which is the layered rock, you can see. Okay, formation. These rocks form from layers of compacted sediments like small pieces of other rocks, minerals, or organic matter. Over time, these sediments accumulate, harden, and cement together. So, basically, how they form from tiny bits of sand, shells, and pebbles that get squished together over a long time. Okay, you can often see layers of even find fossils inside them. Okay, for example, sandstone. These rocks form from sand particles that are compressed over long periods, creating layer. Okay, key feature, sedimentary rocks often have layered structure which can include fossils and other features of the environment where they were deposited. Okay, so the next one is metamorphic rocks, which you can say is the changed rocks. Okay, formation. Metamorphic rocks form when existing rocks, either igneous, sedimentary, or many other metamorphic rocks, are exposed to intense heat and pressure within the earth. This process changes the rock's minerals, structures, and texture without it melting. Okay, so basically, these are recycled rocks, you can say. High heat and heavy pressure squeeze old rocks until they change into something new. Okay? For example, marble formed from limestone under high heat and pressure, resulting in a denser crystalline structure. Okay? And okay, these rocks often show foliation or have a more compact structure due to pressure. Okay, understanding the rock cycle. Okay, this basically shows the rock cycle, which explains how one type of rock changes into another through different natural processes. Okay, look at this diagram carefully so that you can understand the text also. Okay, the first one is this: magma to igneous rocks. Okay, liquid rock comes out of a volcano or stays underground. It cools down and hardens and turns into igneous rocks. This. Okay? So, rain, wind, and ice hit the igneous rocks. This breaks the big rock into tiny crumbs, like this, into tiny crumbs. Okay? Called sediments. So, next they will make sedimentary rocks. Those tiny crumbs pile up in the layer. Okay, over a long time, the weight from the top squashes the bottom layers together until they stick and form sedimentary rock. Okay, so heat and pressure. If that rock gets buried deep in the earth, it gets baked by heat and squashed by pressure. It does not melt yet, but it changes into a tougher metamorphic rock. This one. Okay, and if that metamorphic rock gets even hotter, it finally melts completely, turning back into liquid magma. This one. Okay? No, it's ready to start the whole cycle all over again at step 1. Okay? So, understanding the rock cycle. The rock cycle describes how rocks can transform from one type to another over time. For example, igneous rocks can weather and break down to form sediments, which then form sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks can undergo heat and pressure to become metamorphic rocks. Okay? And metamorphic rocks can melt into magma and cool back into igneous rocks. So, this cycle shows how dynamic and interconnected the Earth's processes are, and how rocks change over time through natural forces. Okay, how do rock layers form? Okay, layers form when sediments, like small particles of rocks, minerals, and organic matter, settle over time, compressing and hardening into rock. Each layer represents a period of time in Earth's history. Small pieces of sand, dirt, and shells settle at the bottom of water or in land. Okay? And over a very long time, more bits pile on top. The weight squashes the bottom bits until they turn into hard rocks. Okay? And each layer is like a snapshot of what was happening on Earth when that layer formed. Okay? For example, the Grand Canyon is a perfect example. Its layer of sedimentary rock tells a story of millions of years of Earth's history, with the oldest layer at the bottom. Okay, look at this image carefully. It's a simple image that's showing different layers of sedimentary rocks, for example, sand, clay, limestone, stacked on top of each other, labeled with ages of terms like oldest or youngest. Okay, so A photo of the Grand Canyon highlighting the different visible layers of rock to visually show how the layers of sediment have built up over time. Okay, so in the last we have post assessment. Okay, the first one is what is one type of rock? The first one is marble, the second one is ice, the third one is water, and the fourth one is soil. Yes, option A is correct. Why? Because marble is a metamorphic rock. Ice and water are liquid or solid but not rocks. And soil is loose dirt, not solid rock. Okay? So, the next one is how do sedimentary rocks form? Yes, option B is correct. From compacted layers of sediments. Why? Because sedimentary rocks are made when tiny bits pile up and get squashed together over time. Okay? And option A is for igneous rocks and option C is for metamorphic rock. Okay? So, what is erosion? Yes, yes. Option B is correct. When water, wind, or ice wear down rocks. Why? Because erosion is a process of nature attacking rocks and breaking them into smaller pieces of moving with them. Okay?